Hey guys, Jamie Nixon here with Nixon Pro, and I am here in Cross Plains, Tennessee at East Robertson High School. To be specific, I'm actually out here in left center field with left fielder from East Robertson, Mr. Colton Harrison. And just wanted to take some time out to talk to Colton this year. He's a senior, graduated actually from Day Spring Academy.
Sure.
We'll get into that about how he plays baseball for East Robertson. But really just wanted to talk about your baseball career, man,
Sure.
talk about your life. And first and foremost, this was your spot right out here, right?
Yes, sir.
This
Yes,
was
sir.
your
Right out here in
domain, huh?
left. All the time, yes, sir. Right
So,
out here.
so just give me really quick a great fielding memory, because I know you're a big hitter, but just give me a fielding memory.
Man, I don't really get to talk about fielding that much. First of all, I want to say thanks for having me. And then, great fielding memory. I actually want to talk about probably the first time I was ever in left field. I had my shoes untied, and I wasn't paying attention, and I went back and stepped and tripped. And Isaac Howarth, who used to play here, reminded me of that. It still reminds me of that to this day. So, I don't know. I probably had a few good throwouts at home, but that's other than that, it's just hitting. Mainly when I was little, my parents tried to tell me the three sports. They would not let me play soccer. That was their rule. It was I don't know. It was just basketball, baseball, and football. They really tried to get me at a young age. And I mean, I remember 2 years old swinging little souvenir bats around the house, and I just picked it up. And then I'd go up to the White House Park, and we'd just all be hitting, and I just loved to hit it far. So, I mean, I play with guys, Aaron Worrell, who's at Ball State right now, Logan Gann, who's at Heritage, your son, Andrew Nixon, who's at Lindsey Wilson right now for football. And I just remember we had those teams back then, and in baseball, it felt like we weren't worried about anything else. Just up there at the park, especially, just all we were worried about was that game and having fun with our guys. So baseball was always it for me. I tried to play basketball and football. I liked basketball a little bit. Football, I got laid out at an early age, realized that was quickly not for me. And I continued basketball up until about 8th grade, and I realized I really wanted to be serious about baseball.
Say, you know, like a long time ago, they would put the camera on professional athletes and they say, "Hi, Mom." I was like, "Why hi, Mom?" He was like, "Because Mom's the one washing the uniform, right?"
Mom does all the undercover work, I like to say. People a lot of times are like, "Oh man, you and your dad have a great bond in baseball." Mom might not know a lot of the statistical things about baseball, but she is one of the biggest supporters I know. She's always there. She's always trying to learn, and she's always pushed me. I mean, there was never a moment. If I had a bad game, Mom was always, you know, you could have done better, mess with me, like, you know, you could have hit one out, you know, you could have done this, and she was just as hard on me and pushed me.
Before we get into baseball, a little bit more about your parents, and I know I brought up your mom, and we'll get to talking a little bit more about your personal life later as you've grown up. But as a little kid, being pushed and actually being supportive while you're going through sports. But your parents, one of the greatest things about you, man, is that you've always been such a respectable young man. And
Yes,
I know
sir.
it comes from your parents.
Yes, sir.
It also comes from the grounding that your parents have in your faith. So share with us a little bit about that, about, you know, what was really important. I know sports was really important to your mom and dad, but share a couple other things that were really important about you being a person.
Oh, for sure. I mean, pretty much the biggest lesson that I've ever learned, I can ever give, and that was taught to me at a young age, is just treat others how you want to be treated. Man, I look at my dad, I look at where he's came from and worked insanely hard. I looked at my mom the same way, and I'm thankful to live in a house where I can look and say that's how I want to be. You know, I've made a mistake, so I'm not perfect, but I love that at the end of the day, they're always trying to help me get better. So basically, the biggest thing that my dad will ever say is treat others like you want to be treated. You ever see somebody not be included, include them. You know, because you never know who's watching you. That's probably the best lesson I've ever learned. Learned that a lot this quarantine. But definitely, you never know who's looking up to you.
That's awesome, because I remember your father coaching my son in baseball, and sometimes it might have felt like your dad was kind of riding him. There's times where it seemed like your dad was riding you. So let's elaborate a little bit on Mr. Harrison and what he means to you as far as your baseball career. And let's talk about being a kid. And let's talk about high school.
That's great. So, man, when I was younger, I think he was a lot harder. Both parents, you know, just it's that age, it's the parenting, especially that coaching back then. But back then, we would just get into it a little bit. He'd be really hard on me. And I think the best thing that's helped me to this day that he started off at a young age, is if I had a great game and everybody was letting me know I had a great game, he was there to tell me what we should have worked on. I mean, it had to be perfect, and that's what drove me. That made me a perfectionist. I knew that I had to be perfect. So it was never, man, you went 2 for 3, here's a juice box. It was like, dude, you dipped your shoulder at 4 years old, at 5 years old. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be hitting line drives. So definitely that. But he's also just a huge supporter. I mean, he would come up here to the field and hit with me any day I asked, take off work, do whatever, and that means the world to me for sure. But yeah, definitely hard. I remember Bad Intentions, that team with Nixon, very hard on us, but that's pushed us from a young age. And one of my biggest things about him is he did not show favoritism at all. I remember him telling me in the car, like, you don't make an attitude adjustment, you won't play next game. I was his son at Dixie Youth. I'm like, shoot. But man, that's pushed me so much, and he was a great coach. When I first started playing travel ball, 11 or 12, there'd be times I'd have a terrible attitude, or I'd be like, like, I'm not supposed to do this, like I'm supposed to hit bombs or something like that, and I would just get too big of myself, and he'd put me in my place. Like, he was like, it's a balance. Like, when you're on that field, I want you to be confident, but when you're off that field, I want you to be like a humble servant, respectful to everybody. And finding that balance was really huge, so you don't get too arrogant and stuff
Gotcha.
like that.
So let me ask you one question about your travel ball.
Yep.
What facility did you play at? What baseball trip did you walk out onto the field and you were like, wow, like
Lake Point.
Lake Point down there in Georgia?
Yes.
That's an incredible facility, isn't it?
Most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. I will never forget going there, my first time ever. I was 14 years old with CrossFit, and I went there, and I'd never seen turf fields like that before. I'd never seen fields so perfect. There's booths everywhere with all kinds of gloves you could ever imagine, bats, and I'm just looking around like, this is what it's like to be pro, except pro's way more experienced than that. But I just remember looking around like, I don't want to leave this place. And that really showed me, like, this is what it could be. Yeah. That was amazing. Yes.
All right, so you're at Day Spring, and in middle school you're playing basketball, but not a lot of baseball options, right?
Yeah, not a lot of baseball options. So that was 7th grade. I didn't have a lot of baseball options. I didn't know somewhere I could play that was really competitive, kind of out of that like MTAC conference. I didn't really know anywhere I could play. And we had a conference about it. I talked to my principal, and I was like, I want to go somewhere where baseball is a big deal. I was like, that's what I want to do. And a few schools came up, and East actually came up. And I went here, super nervous, didn't really know anybody. My friend Wyatt James was here. I've known him since I was little. But and when I talked to Coach Wicks, it clicked. And I've loved it ever since, for sure.
So funny. I remember Coach Wicks when he was a little small little kid, hitting those little Incrediballs when Coach pitched, and he'd run to first base, and talk about another person that had a lot of support from family. Like his mother was a huge supporter. So so it's really cool to see him coach somebody like you, and he knows he has the things that he's built here at East Robertson, the people that he's put into Division I's, to put into some major leagues, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of crazy, So you had opportunities to play at East. So you come in as an 8th grader. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I came in as an 8th grader. I had a talk with Coach Wicks about that. I came in expecting to play middle school. I just got held back because of my age and was a new 8th grader, so I could develop in size and all that. And I talked to Coach Wicks, and he kind of told me, he was like, look, I want to go ahead and get you experience, move you up. He's like, I can't promise you a lot of playing time, but he was like, I want you to see what it's all about. And went up, super nervous, didn't know anybody. Kind of felt like the new fish, something I'm looking forward to in college. And I was the littlest, skinniest dude. I was like this big around. And it was crazy. So, I mean, we'd just be hitting BP. I'm struggling. I'm hitting it off the end and stuff like that. Guys give me a hard time. They're all my good friends now. But, yeah, it was a huge experience, something that I'm looking forward to in college. And it's just got me to where I needed to be today.